Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Adkins, and I'm the TO for the Vanguard GT, Kings of War GT. And This is a brief video to talk about the tool set I'm currently using to run tournaments, because I've had some inquiries because people talk, and that's fine. In an effort to avoid having kind of the same messenger conversation several times, I figured I would just do the spiel once as a video and see if sending people video links um, makes it so I don't have to type the same thing several times over. I don't know. Sometimes I prefer talking to typing, so here we are. So yeah, if you're here, that probably means you're a Kings of War TO, or maybe someone thinking about a TO, and you heard that I wrote something or built something that makes running a tournament really easy. If that sounds like you, then you are in the right place. So the quick overview is back before my event this year, back in March, April, when I was trying to decide how I would do the actual score collection, score calculation, etc. Pairings and publishing that data out to users. That whole workflow of the event. Um, I found myself kind of unsatisfied with the existing options for software tools that were out there, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So, since I am a professional programmer, or at least I was, um, I thought I would see if I could quickly just do something that did what I wanted it to do. Um, but I spent a lot more time in operations than in actual engineering, which means that I understand the internet is held together with duct tape and baling wire, and most things are just cobbled together from a collection of existing tools or solutions. Um, so I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I didn't want to write a whole lot of code. I wanted to see if I could streamline the workflows that I had in mind for how the event ought to run, using mostly existing tools and writing as little stuff as possible. And so that's what I did, and it only took me a couple of days. Um, so if you have heard that I wrote a tournament scoring system, I would say that's not correct. If you heard that I wrote like an app or a program, I would say that is also not correct. Um, I used existing tools to streamline to make what I consider streamlined workflows, for score collection and score calculation and pairings and publishing the information back out to users. Um, and I did that because I only wanted to spend a minimum amount of time putting it together. I didn't want to do a whole big, I didn't want to write something. I just wanted something that just worked, and I have other stuff to do, so I wanted to spend as little time on it as possible. Um, I suspect if you're here, you're kind of in the same boat, and that's kind of what you want as well. Previously, in the past, I'd used WarScore, and I had tried things like Tabletop TO and stuff like that. So I kind of had in mind what the workflow ought to be. Um, so using existing tools that are basically a combination of QR codes, Google Forms, and Google Spreadsheets, I built out just a couple of workflows for the players to use, and then all of the meat slash heavy lifting, whatever, is just kind of all in the spreadsheet, which is just a Google spreadsheet. And if you've done Excel spreadsheets, or even if you use WarScore, you're kind of familiar with what you have to do in there to make that stuff work. It's just a lot of like formula calculation type stuff to put in columns. Um, it was not really meant to be a product or thing that other people could use. It was just something I threw together to see if I could use. But then Chris Fisher asked if he could use it for Mountaineer, and I said sure. So I helped set it up for him, and now I've gotten a few more inquiries. And I suspect that after they use it, I might get a few more. So I figured I would just try to optimize spreading correct information a little bit here. So I'm gonna show you guys some of the parts. Um, if it's something that you're interested in trying out, I'm happy to make copies of things and send you copies of things, and you can update them as you want, depending on time and availability and the general state of things. I might be available to help, but I want to stress again that this is not intended to be like a product that has support, and I'm not going to make any guarantees about if if you type something someplace and things stop working, that I'm necessarily going to be on call to fix them, because that's just not what I was trying to do here. But also, it uses a lot of pre-existing tools, so there's only so much stuff that you can actually break. Um, all right, so with the goal of so first I'm going to talk about what the workflow looks like for the players, and then I'm going to talk about what the workflow looks like for the TOs. Um, I wanted something that was fast, that was very easy to use, that was very reliable and very transparent. Um, so I decided to use a combination of QR codes and Google Forms and Google Sheets. So what the players get, what they do, they play their game, and after they play their game, they get out their phone and they scan a QR code, and that QR code takes them to a Google form. Um, the QR codes can be made available anywhere, like in the players pack. If you have like a round sheet with like the terrain map and the scenario, you can put it on that. Chris Fisher from Mountaineer just printed them on sheets of paper and taped them up to the walls around the hall, in the same sort of spots where you would normally, paste up the results of the previous round and the pairings for the next round. Just general public posted kind of stuff. You want them easily available everywhere. I also made shortened URLs using Bitly for people that couldn't scan them, so they have something short to type. But people seem to really like the QR codes. Yeah. Um, People seem to find them pretty intuitive and know what they want to do. So you get taken to a Google Sheet, Google Form rather, that looks something like this on your phone. It's one form for every round. There's just the one URL. So they pick which round they're doing. They say what table they're on. The goal here is to collect as like only the information you actually need to do the work in the background, and to have players type as little as possible. So drop downs everywhere. Right, the round numbers are drop down. The table numbers are drop downs. Who the players are. This is currently the Mountaineer, so these are all the players from Mountaineer. You make sure they're alphabetized on the spreadsheet, so they show up alphabetized here. You pick your name, you pick your opponent. You do your sports voting with some simple, yes, no radio buttons, and then I collect victory points and the points you killed. Once again, you put victory points in a drop down to make it slightly less likely that people will type the wrong thing. And then you type in the number of points you killed, because a drop down with 2,300 points in 5-point increments seems like more trouble than it's worth, and people are likely to pick the wrong one. You might as well just have them type those. I don't ask players to calculate their game score. I ask them for the values that you need to calculate the game score, and then the spreadsheet does it. So the players basically don't do any math other than counting their number of victory points for that scenario, and counting up how many points they killed and their opponent killed. Things to note about this: there is no authentication. Players just say who they are, and we take their word for it. That means that if anyone is having trouble, if anyone's phone is dead, if someone is having trouble reading it, if someone can't connect to the network, whatever, anyone at the event can put in scores for anyone else. One player can put in his own numbers and then load the form again and put in the results for their opponent if they need to. That also means that you as the TO need to do a little bit of data integrity checking on the back end to make sure that stuff's going on. Submitting multiple results for a game doesn't really help them much, though. The spreadsheet still only grabs like the first one it finds. So if somebody puts in wrong numbers on the back end, you can either just fix it yourself or just ask them to submit them again correctly and then delete the old row. But now I'm getting into the TO workflow, so I'm going to stop talking about that right But again, the point being, this stuff is all pre-existing. Google Forms is a thing that exists. If you wanted to just do your own, you could just go make a Google form that does that, and have it, dump to a Google Sheet, and go to Bitly and make a QR code that points to your URL. If you're technically proficient, you might prefer that rather than asking me for a copy of what I did. So yeah, so players fill this out, they submit it, they get bumped to then a little screen that basically just says, "Thanks for submitting your results. Click here to submit another one." And it's the same form the whole weekend because again, it's not specific to every round. Nothing is pre-filled. Uh, like it doesn't know what tables people are playing on. It's asking them to input that. That also means that there's just the one QR code, and if people leave their browser on their phone open, they can find it. One piece of feedback that I got that I am going to implement is updating the landing page. Right, the thanks for filling out your survey. Thanks for submitting your results, whatever it says by default after you submit it, to have a link right there to the results, so that players don't have to scan one code, enter their results, hit enter, then scan another code to see the final calculation and where they are in the standings, just to streamline things a little bit for them there. Because again, like streamlining the workflow and letting people easily do the things that they want to do and getting out of the way as much as possible is kind of the goal here. Yeah, so you do that, and then they scan another QR code or click the handy link at the end, and that takes them to a result spreadsheet, an HTML result spreadsheet. And this is a Google Sheet that's been published as HTML. And here they can basically immediately see all the results. If it doesn't happen immediately, then they can wait a few seconds and refresh. That's generally the only thing people need to do when there's a problem, is just give the spreadsheet a second or two to do all of its calculations, and then the results will be here. I basically have it set up as you can see the total results. There's a tab for the pairings for the round. So, every time the round advances, they just go to the pairings tab for that round to see what they are. And then after every round, they can go to the results tab and see that the game result came out the way they thought it would. I'm probably going to add a couple more columns here, because people said that they would prefer a little more transparency to maybe see, like, here's your base score for winning. After we adjusted for the scenario or whatever, here's what the score was then. After we adjusted for for your attrition, if you're doing blackjack or something like that, that adds up the score, Northern Kings or whatever. Just so people can see and get an even better, like, warm and fuzzy sense that the spreadsheet did all the math correctly, right? They can look at it and see, like, oh, yep, that's what it's supposed to be. Again, just to increase transparency and confidence in the system a little bit. Yeah, and then it just goes all the way through. These things fill in as the day progresses. It's all the same result sheet. It's all the same URL. It's all one QR code that points people here. You paste it up everywhere. No one should ever have to ask you, are the pairings up? You just say, wait until I announce that the pairings are up, or refresh your browser and see if pairings are listed for the tab. That's it. You don't have to ask the TO, are pairings up? When will pairings be up? Yada, yada, yada. The total results tab, the first one that you dump people to, obviously Mountaineer is done, so it's got all the gory details. Typically, what I will do before the event, during the event, is limit it to just battle score and attrition and hide everything else, and then reveal it at the end, because you don't necessarily want people to see who's winning paint and who's winning player's choice and who's first overall and all that kind of stuff. So, like, one of the reasons that I do it this way is that you have you have your TO stuff, and then the player visible stuff is kind of separate, and you can control what they see, which is, I think, a thing that most TOs are going to want to do. So in terms of the player workflow, like, that's it. There's that one form to fill out after the round. Then they pop over here, and then they see their results, and then they just refresh this a couple times. After you yell out, pairings are up, they refresh it again. They go to the correct little tab up here for the round pairings. They find their name, they find their opponent, they find their table, they go to it. Since this is all, again, built on existing tools, stuff written by Google, it's freely available. It's pretty user friendly. It's pretty reliable, and it's pretty fast, which I think we're all kind of goals. You want something that feels solid, and works quickly and avoids people scratching their head and wondering whether or not things are really working the way they're supposed to. at the end of the tournament, basically the same thing happens again. You have a second form that just has all of your end of tournament wrap up, like favorite opponent and player's choice, and like any other whatever you need to capture at the end of the tournament. That's just another QR code that you can post up around. Like, this is the end of tournament form. Please scan this and do it. Again, just some drop downs with the list of players in it. They pick what they want, and that's it. And then that again dumps to the same spreadsheet. Things auto calculate. The awards get auto calculated for you. Then they go and sit and wait for the awards, and you call them out, and that's it. From the player's perspective, there's not a whole hell of a lot that they need to do other than fill out some forms, and there's not even a lot of math. So that's it. Now I'm going to talk about the TO workflow. One moment, please. Somebody's asking me a question. My apologies. Live video. Now me answering a question for Robin is forever enshrined in here. Okay. So now for, like, if you're a TO, what you're probably most interested in, and that's like, how is the sausage made and what do I actually have to do to make something like this work? And again, the answer is it's just a Google spreadsheet. If you're familiar with using spreadsheets or like Excel, or you used WarScore or something like that, it's probably going to feel kind of familiar to you. So let's take a look. So I use one Google Sheet. There are two tabs here down at the bottom that have these little purple icons. That means those are being fed by the Google Forms. So form responses here. These are the game results. So as you can see, round, table, the player, their opponent, all the questions we ask them are filled out here. And that's it. And as they come in, the form just dumps them here, just dumps the data here. So when you're doing things like checking to make sure people put in matching numbers, this is the tab you come to see if people put in matching numbers. Same thing with the end of tournament votes, they get dumped here. And correcting any errors is as simple as either deleting a row from one of these tabs and asking them to submit it again, or updating it in line yourself. That's it. And then it's fixed. One thing that might throw people off when they start playing with it is that there are some blank lines at the top. The reason there are some blank lines at the top is that when you as the TO add some test results before the event to make sure it works, you want to delete them afterwards. That means you come in here and delete the rows. The form keeps appending to the bottom of where it thought it was. This doesn't affect anything. You just end up with some blank space at the top, depending on how much testing you do. So that's where the data comes in. In terms of the TO workflow, pardon me. So I have, the first tab is simply called the roster. That'll look very familiar. You probably have a similar spreadsheet with the names of players and the clubs that they are in, and whether or not you've gotten a list from them, and maybe some contact info. And so that's what this is. This is just the master list of the people who are playing in your event, and it gets queried by a lot of the other tabs to get the current list of players. Adding a player to the event is just you add them to this tab of the spreadsheet. You will notice that some of the columns up top are in green. I have tried to make columns that the TO is supposed to manually update green, so that you know that it's safe to type things under there. So that's what that is. If you try to type things anywhere else, those are probably auto-calculated fields, and it might break something, or just change whatever you changed back to what it originally was, because it's a calculated field. So anything that's green is yours to update. I'll also warn you that putting punctuation in any of those fields might cause things to not work right. So if you have someone with an apostrophe or a dash in their name or something like that, maybe just leave that out and tell them to work through it. As the TO, you basically fill in the roster here as people register. Now you've got all these Google Forms that you've created that have the lists of all the players. You don't really want to have to go update that manually over and over again. So up here, I added there's a little menu item that I've added called TO Tools. This is where the only things that I consider fancy live. And right now there's two options under it, one for generate pairings and one for sync roster to forms. You hit sync roster to forms. and it updates all the drop downs on the Google Forms that the players use with the current list of players on the roster. So you really only have to update it in one place and then hit that button, and then everything is synced. And then, of course, you have the pairings tabs and the result tabs, the round result tabs, and of course, there's one for every round. They just kind of keep going. That's where you define how you want to do the scoring, basically. Right now, it's currently set up to do Bart Shroud, which is this thing that we do. Find an example of one here. Here we go. Right. So just so here you got a formula to determine win, loss, or draw based on the scenario points that they entered. You figure out how many points to give them just for winning. You figure out, here's where it starts getting fancy. So this is where if you're playing blackjack, there's a lot of formula math up there to turn those results into the actual blackjack scenario adjustment, and then whatever your attrition table is. Also, that's where a lot of the math is, and this is one of the clunky parts of updating this thing. There isn't really one place to put that and refer to it that I figured out yet. Maybe there is, but so that means like once you do that, you kind of go to every results tab. You paste in your formula for calculating results the way you want. You drag it all the way down over all the rows, and then it works. And then you get to the end, and of course, it adds up the total. It grabs the total battle score from the front sheet and the total attrition from the front sheet. So things progress. You keep getting results. You get to the end, and then I have it. Here's the total results tab, similar to the one that is on the public sheet, but here's all the gory details for the TO to see. Got some scratch, worksheet type tabs here at the end, where you add up like favorite opponent votes and player's choice votes, and your paid judge can enter the appearance scores. Now. Once again, I apologize. I seem to be having connectivity issues. Live video. What are you going to do? In case that didn't come through, I'll say it one more time. There's an awards tab at the end where you can define how all the awards are calculated in advance, as I do here, which is basically the total results. Get the guy who has the highest, overall score, and show me the next three in order, just so you can have like a first, second, and third thing. And you do that for kind of all of your awards, right? Best general, go get me the guy with the highest battle score, who isn't the guy that won best overall, and show me the top three in order. So when you get to the end of the tournament, you don't even have to calculate the awards. It just does it just does it for you because you set it up in advance, and you can go here and eyeball it to make sure it looks right. If you've got any weird conflicts, you've got the top three there that you can see. And you can just, you get to the end of your tournament, the players say they've done all their input, you look at the results, you eyeball them, make sure they look sane, you stand up and you hand out the awards. That's all you got to do, which is pretty cool. And then you can add this awards tab to the public version that all the players see as soon as you're done announcing them. And you update the total results tab on the public version with everything in the total results tab. And the players can see all the scores, and you don't have to answer questions. And it's the same URL they've been going to the whole time, same results HTML form they've been seeing the whole time. So there's no extra anything to send out. everybody just already has that URL. You've already put that QR code tons of places. Um, you can post it once at the beginning of the event and keep pointing people to your same Facebook post of that's where all the results are. Don't ask me again. A lot of this is just like boiling things down to giving the same answer to a question over and over again. So you don't really have to think about it. You just tell people like, go to the URL I posted, refresh your browser. That's mostly what you say as TO. Like, use the QR codes I provided, refresh your browser if it doesn't look right, give it a couple of minutes, refresh it again, and then come tell me if there's still a problem. And that fixes like 99% of the issues that people have. And the other 1% is fixing when somebody, does something dumb like pick themselves as their opponent instead of the other way around. Weird crap like that. Or somebody forgets to hit enter and doesn't actually submit the typical user error entry data entry kind of crap. So the thing that you're probably wondering right now is, how are the pairings calculated? Because that's the thing I haven't shown you yet. And that's kind of the sticking point, because you're probably saying to yourself, Mike, I could do all this myself. I know how a spreadsheet works, but how do I automatically generate pairings? That seems complicated and hard and time consuming, and I don't want to do that by hand. And I agree. So without further ado, I'll show you what the actual fancy part of this is. So you might notice that up here by the roster, there's a tab called New Pairings. And the New Pairings tab is populated by something under the TO Tools menu called Generate Pairings. Right now, this is mostly filled out because the pairings have been generated for several rounds already because the tournament's done. But Generate Pairings is a script that I wrote in Google's app script, which I believe is really just JavaScript, and it's embedded in the spreadsheet. And when you make copies of this spreadsheet, the script goes with it. Okay. So if I send you a copy, it should also be there. It looks at the roster to get the list of players, and it looks at the total results to get the order that they are in terms of battle and attrition. It pairs by battle first and then attrition as a tiebreaker. And if you want to change that, then you can change, I think, the total results tab, like the way you sort things in the total results tab, and it'll consider them differently. If everybody's got a 0 or people have the same score, and there's no tiebreaker, I think it does it by random. Definitely the first round, it's random. If people have a 0 battle score, it just does random pairing. So the way it works is, when you've got all the results for the round, or you're ready to start the tournament and generate your pairings, you just go to the TO Tools tab, you hit Generate Pairings. It says it's running the script. It asks you if you should pair club mates, because you can do club immunity. I'm going to say yes, pair club mates, because it's the last round. It says the script is running, and then it says it's finished. And so this would be the pairings for a 6th round, if there was one at Mountaineer. So it spits out players, their opponents, and the table it puts them at. For your warm and fuzzy, it also puts who their club is, their total battle score, total attrition score, and all their previous opponents. So if there are any issues, you can kind of eyeball and see here, like, wait a minute, why are two people with such wildly different battle scores playing each other? And then you can maybe look and see, like, oh, it's because the people that they would be playing, they've already played. You can delete everything here, hit the button again. It should generate basically the exact same pairings every time, because it's just trying to go straight down battle and attrition. And that's all. And then how do you get these pairings up for people to see? So once you review them and you're sure they're right, because on this tab, this is literally just for you to see. This is like a scratch tab where you can change things around. Once the pairings get generated by the script and dumped here, you can do whatever you want to them. You can move who's playing at which table. If you have like a streaming table, you just update this spreadsheet right here. You update the tab that says table. That's it. If two people are playing and for some reason you don't want them to play each other, whatever reason that might be, you just switch them. It's not a big deal. If for some reason the script couldn't pair two people, they will have no table listed. For example, here's someone with no table listed. Why does he have no table listed? It probably means there's one other person with no table listed. Yes, there is down here. That will happen in cases where you get down to, and they also have no opponent listed. Haha. Either. Look at there. Two things you can look at. That can happen for reasons such as you get down to the bottom of the player list and you've said you want to do club immunity, and the last few players are all in the same club, or they've all played each other already. So sometimes, like, the last couple of players can't be paired. That happens sometimes. and then you just work your way up, like break up one of the tables above them and repair them the way you want. And then to go to the next round, you basically just copy the first three tabs here: the player, the opponent, the table they're playing on. You go to the pairings tab for that round. Player, opponent, and table are green, which means you can update them, and you paste them there. And as soon as you paste them there, they get pushed to the public version. You tell the players to reload their browsers, and they can see who they're playing, and that's it. Um, and that's kind of all you have to do is the TO. Like once you get it all set up and you get all the formulas defined, you go to the event and you just tell people to start playing, and then the results come in. You eyeball them to make sure they look right. You click generate pairings. You look over them to make sure they're right. You copy and paste them. You tell people to refresh and start the round. You get to the end. You stand up and read the awards, and that's all. So it's pretty well streamlined and it's pretty reliable. Again, there's some setup work, which I don't consider all that hard because I'm a professional programmer. So doing stuff like this seems easy to me. It may not seem easy to you. If you're interested, one, if you think you can just do this yourself, and now that I've just shown you how I do it, go for it. If you want me to just send you a copy of the pairing script and you do the rest of it, happy to. I'll just send you a copy of the spreadsheet. You can open the app script and take it out yourself, do whatever you want with it. Again, I'm not trying to sell this. I'm not trying to make a product. I'm also not trying to spend a shit ton of time supporting it so lots of other people can do it. But I love the community and I love helping. And I think this is an area where this could be a whole lot easier than we've been doing it. So if you're interested, hit me up. I'm I'm happy to send you copies. I may or may not be available to answer questions or help with things depending on how things go. As I add stuff or make fixes or make updates or whatever, I'll try to like let the people who I know are using it know, or tell them to go grab a new copy of something. I'll point people to like a public copy of the spreadsheet that they can then copy and do whatever they want with. But that's it. So I hope this has answered any questions you might have. Um, if you think this is interesting and you want to give it a shot, let me know and I'll see if I can help you out. If you find this, inspiring and it's made some light bulbs go off in your head and you're like, well, I can just do that and I got a couple of better ideas, by all means, man, run with it and like let me know what you did. Because if you're doing something smarter than me, I'm not above just stealing stuff because that's how we all get better, right? We help each other. We're all in this together. Um, so yeah, again, this has been used at two events and it's gone well so far. It uses existing tools, so there's very little code that I wrote. It's all written by Google and run by Google, so it's highly available, easy to get to, stable, etc. Um, and I think that's about all I have to say. So if you want to chat more about this, you can hit me up on Facebook. Now that we all kind of have the same base of understanding, I and I don't have to start from scratch with the conversation every time. Um, yeah. So thanks for watching. This went a lot longer than I expected it to, but I guess I had a lot to say about it, so I apologize for that if you thought this was going to be quick because I said it was going to be quick. Um, so take it easy. Good luck with your events in the future, whether you use this or not. Uh, and let's keep running stuff, man. Let's keep pushing it all forward. All right, take care.